Well, prominent U.S. Democrats, including the House of Representatives leader Nancy Pelosi, are travelling to Cuba today to build on the announcement late last year by President Barack Obama to move towards the normalisation of relations between the U.S. and the communist-led island. Anthony Capsia, Professor of Latin American History from Nottingham University, joins us now. Thanks so much for your time this evening. How significant is this visit by Nancy Pelosi and, I guess, another step in this relaxation of relations?
It's certainly another step, and I think that's the best way always of looking at what's happened since 17th of December, is that it really is a whole series of often quite small steps, but sometimes those small steps turn out to be very significant. I think each time there's a visit by someone more senior, it sends a signal, an important signal, to the Cubans as much as to anybody else, I think. So this is of some significance in that respect.
Why do you think it was important to Barack Obama to take these steps now?
I think in many respects he had little choice but to act when he did. He knew he was going to lose control of Congress in January, and therefore his freedom of action was likely to be limited. He had the opportunity, given the possibility of a prisoner exchange, and therefore acting when he did and as he did, seizing that opportunity, was in one respect the only thing he could do. But actually he pushed through another series of small changes, or at least small proposals, taking the opportunity to do that.
And how ready was Cuba for this change?
I think the Cubans have been looking forward to a change like this for some time, and that's leadership and people. I think they have no illusions, because the important thing always is that the economic embargo is still in place and likely to stay there for some time. And that is the most important thing. So all of these diplomatic discussions, back-channel discussions and so on, always ease the process of negotiation, make things better in the very short term and sometimes just on the surface, but they all help, simply because they create an atmosphere of trust. And I think there's considerable trust between the Cuban leadership and the Obama administration, as indeed there has been for some time. I think what they're both doing is saying, let's seize the opportunity of the little window that we've got to do what we can, but let's not hold our breath.
Yeah. So where will we start to see some significant changes? Of course, maybe some relaxed travel restrictions, gentle ramping up of trade, do you think?
I think it'll have to be gentle, if only because the embargo prohibits the substantial amount of trade. And anyway, some of those measures that were taken, that were announced in December, may yet be rolled back by Congress. It's still possible that some of those changes, for example, the banking changes and so on, they may well be rolled back. So I'm sorry to pour cold water on this one, but it does sound again as though I'm saying, don't hold your breath yet. I think wait to see what actually happens. But there will be changes. And I think the biggest change on the embargo is that the administration doesn't actually have to enforce every aspect of the embargo if they choose not to. Travel restrictions are a good example. Although American tourists are still banned by the United States legislation from going on holiday in Cuba, I know of any number of supposedly educational tours that are being organized, and I think the administration will insist on turning a blind eye to that, which didn't happen under the Bush administration. They enforced it quite substantially. So those changes are quite significant, and they simply make a difference to the normal contacts.
What is the economy like in Cuba at the moment?
They're struggling, but they've been struggling for 20 years now, ever since the collapse of the Soviet Union. It's picked up in many respects, and tourism certainly is flourishing, and that is the main earner of currency, apart from remittances from emigres. So the economy could do with a boost, and I think that's always the thing that concerns most Cubans on a basic level, is actually improving the supply of material goods. Not so much the basics as just simply the material goods that they see the rest of the world enjoying and they can't get, principally because of the embargo. So those things have started to improve, and there's a fair amount of, a growing amount of self-employment activity, which is the real growth area in Cuba, although it's got limitations, simply because of the supply of, or the lack of supply of goods that are required. But there is enough hard currency coming into the country to feed that sector at the moment. And the only concern from the leadership is, can they make sure that it stays within certain bounds and doesn't raise expectations? That's always going to be one of their concerns.
Indeed. Anthony Kapsia, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.